Imagine giving everything you have to the people you love, only to find out they've been mocking you behind your back. That's exactly what happened to Alexandra Matthews. She built a life of luxury for her parent, but one overheard conversation revealed a shocking betrayal. What would you do if the people you trusted most turned out to be the ones who broke you? This is a story of heartbreak, revenge, and the ultimate test of forgiveness. Stay tuned. You won't believe how it all unfolds.
The home hummed softly in the evening, disturbed only by the quiet clinking of glasses and subdued laughing in the living room. Arriving at her parents' place earlier than planned, Alexandra Matthews had decided to surprise them with a visit because it was a rare free evening. She let herself in gently, as she usually did, juggling a bottle of wine and a little bouquet of flowers she had picked on the road. The familiarity of the house was consoling. The low murmur of the TV playing in the background, the rich aroma of her mother's cooking floating from the kitchen. It was a scene that suggested warmth, family, and the protection she had labored to offer them. Their voices grew clearer as she moved toward the living room. Stopped in the corridor, she changed the bottle in her hands and meant to approach them. But then Alexandra noticed her mother's tone, sharp and cutting, a tone she did not know, because it was about her. "It's always about her work, her money," her mother said. "She seems to be some sort of saint, saving every one of us. To be honest, I have no idea why she feels as though we should be appreciative." Alexandra stopped. The bouquet slid slightly in her hands. Her heart skipped. The words confused her. Her father answered while she leaned closer to the doorway. Her breath held. "She has always been like that," he said. "Selfish in her own unique sense. She certainly pays for stuff, but let's not overlook who actually reared her. All this wealth of hers does not change the fact that she would not have anything without us." Their low, secretive laughter sliced through the air, a joint mocking of a girl who had given them everything. Alexandra strained to make sense of what she was hearing, and her chest clenched. Her whole existence had been based on her making sure her family never wanted anything, and on supporting them. Every advancement, every restless night at the office, every sacrifice had been done considering their well-being. And behind her back, this was how they talked of her? "She's lucky we tolerate her," her mother said, sounding disgusted. "She walks about like some sort of savior. Not the other way around. She is the one that depends on us." From her hand, the flowers dropped petals all about the floor. Her ears rang with a mix of hurt and wrath, and her breath came shallow. The noises in the living room stopped, their laughter replaced by the quiet anxiety of people understanding they were no more alone. With her expression blanked and her eyes keen as they flew between her parents, Alexandra entered the gateway. Not one person spoke for a moment. Her father's face went white, and her mother's hand stopped midway through gestural motion. Her mother began. "Alexandra," her voice cracking, "we didn't hear you come in." "I'm sure you didn't," Alexandra said, her voice calm even though she was within a storm. She did not let them have time to clarify or undo. She turned without more comment and left the bottle of wine unbroken on the corridor table behind the door. Shock, betrayal, rage, and a hollow aching that threatened to swallow her whole blended together on the journey back to her apartment, and she was unable to untangle them. She has been their rock and provider for years. She had believed their relationship was unquestionably based on mutual love and respect. Now though, those illusions were dashed and she began to doubt every moment she had lived through. Her burning need to digest what she had heard consumed the next days. She first questioned herself, mentally running over the exchange and looking for any misinterpretation. But their remarks were clear enough to eliminate any uncertainty. She considered the never-ending financial responsibilities she had assumed for them, their house, their bills, the vacations they never hesitated to take knowing Alexandra would pay for them. It never has been about thanks for them. Its focus had been on entitlement. The knowledge stung, but it also sharpened something inside of her. Alexandra was not someone to face with words. In this situation, her silence would be the most resounding statement of all since actions spoke louder. She pulled her name from their credit cards, stopped the automated transfers to their accounts, and cut every financial lifeline she had offered. There was no reaction at first. The phone started to ring then. Her mother's voice agitated. They arrived in waves, alternately accusing and imploring. "Alexandra, the bank has made a mistake. Would you be able to correct this? Then, what's wrong with you? Do you know what this is doing to us?" Her father spoke in an angry, bitterly charged manner. "After all we have done for you, this is how you thank us back." She hardly responded to one call. Every message served as a reminder of their treachery and support of her choice. From a distance, she watched as their established way of life started to fall apart. There were piles of overdue notes. Once their pride, the suburban house went for sale as the mortgage payments fell behind. Once haughty and rebellious, her father was compelled to work at a hardware store. Her mother began visiting bargain stores after spending decades developing an impression of luxury. It was not about exacting revenge, at least not totally. Alexandra did not enjoy their difficulties. She could not, however, deny the sense of vindication in knowing they were at last bearing the weight of duty she had carried for so long. They had denigrated her efforts and paraded her sacrifices. They would now be learning what it meant to stand on their own. Months dragged into a year, and their silence became faint. For the first time in years, she went forward concentrating on her profession, her friendships, and herself. Their betrayal's anguish faded over time, then replaced a sense of release. She was no longer connected to their expectations, no more their crutch. When her parents eventually contacted each other once more, it was with humility rather than demands. Her father's email was brief and unlikingly honest. "We have to apologize to you. We did not value you the way we ought to have done. We are apologies." Alexandra spent a lot of time staring at the TV, her heart divided. Though it might not come naturally, maybe forgiveness would come finally. Though she knew one thing for sure, she had recovered her life, and she would never let herself be taken for granted once more. The scars of their betrayal would never totally fade. The days following her parents' apologies felt like whispers in the breeze, ephemeral and hard to hold. Before answering with a brief, courteous acknowledgement, Alexandra had spent hours staring at the email. She neither knew if she would ever be ready to reconcile nor was ready. Still, the treachery stalks too closely. But the words of her father stayed in her head, resounding against the walls of her will. Like it always happens, life continued. Alexandra lost herself in her work and was promoted with pressure and reputation attached. She moved more, spending her time in conferences and retreats, creating a life that seemed entirely hers. Still, a shadow persisted even if her parents lived far away physically. Not totally, but curiosity drove it rather than guilt. What significance did their apologies have? Has anyone really changed, or was it a deliberate action? She wasn't sure she should ask to know. Her phone buzzed with an odd number one rainy afternoon, as she made her way back to her apartment following a demanding day. Alexandra hesitated, her thumbs circling the screen before responding. "Hello. This is Samuel Klein, Miss Matthews. Representing your parents is me, an attorney." The man's voice was professional, crisp, yet it carried undercurrent of anxiety. "I want to talk with you about a pressing concern." Her stomach constricted, her voice wary. She asked, "What kind of matter? We would be better off talking about this personally. Could you show up at my office tomorrow? Your parents' financial position has gotten worse." First instinct was to reject, to let them manage their issues, as they had pushed her to deal with hers. Still, something about the attorney's tone bothered her. She agreed against her better sense. The air of the law office was rich with the scent of polished wood and ink. It was also frigid. Samuel Klein was a smart man with glasses too big for his small face. He was also wimble. He pointed Alexandra to seat and handed a packet across the desk toward her. "As you know," he said, "your parents have had major financial challenges for the past year. Regretfully, striving to fix them, they have made some bad judgments. They have taken out several high-interest loans, utilized their remaining possessions as security, and today they run the danger of losing everything." Alexandra clenched her lips into a tiny line. "And exactly why are you sharing this with me?" "They have not called me for assistance." Klein corrected his glasses, a flutter of irritation across his face. "That's so they have no idea I am getting in touch with you. Even when it became abundantly evident they had no other choice, they have not contacted you once more. I am here since I think you should be aware of their whole circumstances." She slanted back and crossed her arms. "So they have at last reached rock bottom. Is that expected to cause guilt in me?" Klein's voice softening. "That's not my intention, Miss Matthews," he replied. Nevertheless, there is more. Desperate, they turned to less than respectable sources. Individuals not as forgiving as banks. Your parents run physical as well as financial risk. Breath caught Alexandra. Words sank like stones in her chest. She was momentarily back in the corridor listening to their nasty laugh. She wanted to let them deal with the results of their own decisions, to discount the attorney. But another side of her, that which she still remembers, family dinners and childhood hugs, wavered. "Exactly what are you asking me to do?" Her voice flat as she asked. "Help them settle the debt," Klein answered. "It's a significant amount, but given your means, let me ask you something. If you were in Alexandra's shoes, what would you do? Would you step in to save the people who hurt you, or let them face the consequences of their own choices? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know how you see this." She laughed sharply and turned him off. "That is so what this is? You want me to rescue them once more?" Klein gave a headshake. "No, I want you to give some thought to what might happen absent it." The room went still, tension hanging heavy in the air. Alexandra fixed her gaze on the folder while her mind flew. Helping them would mean opening scars she had battled to mend. Ignoring their situation, however, may have repercussions she couldn't overlook, not if it meant their safety was really in jeopardy. Alexandra made no decision right away. She battled her emotions, past, and the future she had battled to create for days. Wanting to confirm the lawyer's assertions, she got in touch with a private investigator. Her parents were caught in a web of debt, some linked to dangerous people who wouldn't hesitate to employ intimidation, or worse, to collect what was owing, so confirming her darkest fears. But then an unanticipated turn of events surfaced as she stood at the crossroads of her choice. Alexandra got an unmarked, without a return address package one evening at her door. Inside were a set of pictures and records proving her parents' financial behavior, certainly, but also proof of something considerably darker. Among the documents were falsified signatures, including hers on loan agreements she had never seen. By falsifying her name to get more money, her parents ran the danger of damaging her credit and reputation. Deeper than anything else, the treachery felt like a dagger to the chest. It was an active, intentional decision to pull her into their mess without her knowledge or permission, not just remarks behind her back. Any last shame she had experienced vanished, replaced with an icy wrath. Equipped with this fresh knowledge, Alexandra proceeded differently. She avoided squarely facing her parents. Rather, she worked quietly, making use of her resources to guarantee the nullification of the bogus loans. She paid security to keep her parents safe from the unpleasant people they owed. She let them believe, though, that the consequences still loomed, and that they would have to live with the anxiety they had generated. Months passed and Alexandra stayed far, observing from the shadows while her parents worked to reconstruct their life. To pay their bills, they sold their last belongings, relocated to a tiny apartment, and started menial jobs. Although their behavior showed hints of humility, the damage they had done to her went too deep for simple pardon. Alexandra thought about opening the door to reconciliation just a year later, when her mother contacted her with a quivering voice and a sincere apology. She did it carefully even then, her limits clearly set. Though they might never be able to rebuild her complete confidence, maybe they might coexist. Alexandra's path had changed her. It had strengthened her will and imparted lessons on the need of personal survival. She had come to see that although devotion and love were priceless, they were not unqualified. Her heart still hurt with the marks of treachery, but she came out stronger, smarter, and absolutely free.
Alexandra's journey of betrayal and resilience is unforgettable, but imagine discovering not just betrayal, but a deadly secret hidden in plain sight. That's what James faces when his family's greed leaves him with nothing but a forgotten shed. Inside, he uncovers a treasure, and a secret that could rewrite history or cost him everything. Are you ready to dive into a story of danger, mystery, and legacy? Don't wait, click here to see what James uncovers.